Hello students, in the previous video we have seen about the Shakespeare's history and Shakespeare as a dramatist and his tragedy, how the tragedies and comedies were written, and his historical supernatural events and soliloquy. We have seen all those things in the previous videos, and in this video we are going to see the play of Shakespeare, Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar, it taken place, some 5 acts taken place in this play. It's a very long play. So in this video I am going to give the summary wise explanation and critical comments about the act 1 and act 2 scene wise. Okay, so let us start the play. Julius Caesar, act 1, scene 1. The scene is laid in a street of Rome. The Rome people are enjoying a holiday and have gathered on the streets to welcome Caesar and to rejoice in his triumph over the sons of his old rival Pompey. It is 15th February 44 BC. The senators Flavius and Marulius angrily rebuke the people for their ingratitude to Pompey and drive them out of the streets. These two are resolved to stripe away the decorations on the street statue of Caesar. Marulius opines that it may be intelligent to disrobe the image since it was the feast of Lupercalia. The Flavius points out that if the powers of Caesar are not checked, then they may all have to live in servile fearfulness. This is the scene 1, and let us see the critical comments of the scene 1. The opening scenes of Shakespeare are always masterpieces. They at once strike the keynote of the play and introduce the major characters. The introductory scene tells us of the atmosphere of intrigue and uncertainty that prevails in Rome. Caesar's growth and attitude of the tribunes towards him, which will soon result in the murder of Caesar. The fickle nature of Rome mob is also indicated in this scene. This is the critical comment of this first scene. Next, let us pass on to Act 1, Scene 2. This Scene 2 taken place in the street of Rome. Caesar passes in the procession to the forum to celebrate the festival of Lupercal. A soothsayer bids him beware the ideas of March, and Caesar heedlessly dismisses him as a dreamer. The procession passes on, and Brutus and Cassius are left alone. Cassius appeals to his patriotism and his love for the people of Rome, and Brutus is moved. He is jealous of Caesar and is organizing a conspiracy against him. He inches Brutus against Caesar. He describes the frailties of Caesar. He recalls the event when he saved Caesar from drowning in the river Tiber and nursed him when he groaned and shivered with fever. That weak mortal has now become a god, bestriding the narrow world like a Colossus. When Caesar returns with his followers from the feast, Brutus detains Casca, for he is curious to know what has happened. Casca relates how Antony offered the crown thrice to Caesar and how reluctantly Caesar declined it. He also informed them about the epithetic situation. and if it had Caesar had and describes how he apologized to the multitude for anything he might have said while the fit was on him. Marullus and Flavius have been fired from office for pulling scarves off Caesar's image. On the departure of Brutus and Casca, Cassius hits upon a plan for winning Brutus to join in the conspiracy against Caesar. He resorts to throw bits of papers in various writings suggesting what Roman expects from Brutus. He would highlight how much the name of Brutus is valued in Rome and will make him realize the ambitions of Caesar. This is the scene 2. Let us see the critical comments of this scene. The scene is important in many ways. It reveals the characters both in Brutus and Cassius. Brutus is an idealist, in case Cassius is shrewd and cunning. The description of Caesar that Cassius that is taken place in the textual lines are: reads much, he is a greatest observer, and he looks quiet through the deeds of men. He loves no place, he hears no music, seldom he smiles. Such men. The Dangerous reveals the characteristics of Cassius and the shrewdness of Caesar. The hostility against Caesar, which is indicated in the first scene, is gaining ground. All the major characters of the play are introduced in this scene and we get an insight into the characters. So this is scene 2. Next we pass on to the scene 3. A month later, 14th March, Casca meets Cicero on a stormy night in a street of Rome. There is a violent storm raging with thunder and lightning. Casca reveals the fear in his mind, for he has seen many unnatural happenings, such as a slave with burning arms, a lion near the capital, and he has heard the hooting and shrieking of owls of midday in the marketplace. Cicero is at least disturbed. Shortly afterwards, Cassius joins Casca and easily introduces him to join the conspiracy against Caesar. Casca feels firmly that Caesar will be offered crown the next time and thereby become the king of Rome. If that happens, Cassius says Cassius from bondage will deliver Cassius. He regrets that the Romans have willingly become slaves to Caesar. Casca agrees with Cassius and adds that a party of conspirators is already waiting for him in Pompey's Porsche. Cinna joins these two men and he is sent to throw certain forged letters to Brutus in places when Brutus are likely to come across them easily. These letters contain appeals from the people of Rome. Cassius tells Casca that they may win over Brutus easily. Casca feels elated for Brutus sits high in all the people's heart, and his support will strengthen their cause. Let us see the critical comment of the scene 3. The storm in nature is symbolic of the agitation in the hearts of the conspirators. It also symbolizes the storm of civil war which is soon to overtake Rome. An element of horror is introduced in this scene through the supernatural sights and sounds. The curiosity and interest of the audience is further roused in this scene. Next we pass on to the Act 2, Scene 1. The scene takes place on the same night and is laid in the garden of Brutus' house. So the scene taken place in the garden of the Brutus' house. The storm is still raging. Brutus, being unable to sleep, is walking in this orchard, brooding over the words of Cassius. His soliloquy reveals the fact that he is disturbed. He ponders that he does not have any personal grudge against Caesar. If Caesar becomes the king, his nature may change and regrets that Rome will find herself in the clutches of a tyrant. He resolves to join the conspiracy, for he concludes that the liberation of Rome can only be accomplished by Caesar's death. The conspirators led Cassius and Casca enter and are welcomed by Brutus. Cassius succeeds in forcing Brutus to join them, and details of the riot are discussed. Brutus disapproves of the suggestion that Antony, beloved of Caesar, should be killed with Caesar. At about 3, they disperse. Cassius wonders whether the protons of the night will defer Caesar from going to the Senate house, but Decius believes that he can influence any superstitious forebodings of Caesar. The conspirators agree to meet in the palace of Caesar at night at 8 in the morning and go with him to the Senate house. Then they depart. Brutus instructs them that they all must appear fresh and merrily. Their faces should not reveal their intentions. Brutus's wife Portia now arrives in the garden. Now she is entering into the garden. He gently chides her for her careless attitude to the health, as she has come out in the raw cold morning. She replies that she had been disturbed by his restlessness and urges him to tell her the secret cause of his recent worry and strange behavior. As the better half, she has every right to know his troubles. She kneels before him, and Brutus is carried away by his humble gesture. she reveals the latest wound inflicted by herself on her thigh as a proof of her fortitude. Their conversation is interrupted by a knocking, and Brutus promises to tell her his secret, and she withdraws. Ligurius enters with Lucius and is told of the conspiracy. Yes, this is taken place in this scene 1, act 2, in the garden of Brutus. Let us see the critical comments of this scene 1. The scene throws a flood of light on the character of Brutus. The darkness in the external world suggests the confusion in Brutus's mind. In literature, night and darkness is associated with evil and sorcery. He is essentially a nobleman who is ready to do everything honorable for his country. But he is an idealist and has no knowledge of practical politics or of such intriguing politicians as Cassius. Besides this, he ponders too much. This makes Julius Caesar a tragedy of thought as much as political tragedy. The scene also brings out the relationship between Portia and Brutus. The love and care shared them each is revealed in this scene. Yes. Now let us pass on to the act 2 and scene 2. In act 2, the scene 2. We are now taken to the palace of Caesar. So this scene 2, it is taken place in the palace of Caesar. Caesar summoned a servant to bid the priest to sacrifice animals at the altar, and they informed him of their opinion of his success. On the morning of the Ides of March, Caesar is entreated by his wife Calpurnia not to go to the Senate as she has heard unnatural happenings. She tells him that there have been reports of horrid sights in the streets of Rome. They have yielded up the dead, and ghosts have squealed. The groan of dying men have been heard, and that blood has been seen dripping on the walls of Capitol. Caesar declares that these ill omens concerned mankind in general, but Calpurnia is of the opinion that no such signs are seen when beggars die, but the heavens themselves biased forth the death of princes. Yes. The dictator courageously says that cowards die many times. Before their death, the valiant never taste or death but once, and further says that death, a necessary end, will come when it will come. She is alarmed by the bad dream dreamt by her. She saw his statue spurting blood like a fountain, with many Romans joyfully bathing their hands in it. The servant sent by him now returns and informs him that the priests have found the omens to be unfavorable to Caesar. Caesar should better stay at home, but Caesar boasts of his being too terrible a personage to be terrified by danger. However, he yields to his wife's entreaties and agrees not to go out of that day. Decius enters and by artful flattery induces Caesar to disregard the fears of his wife and got to the Senate. As arranged, Brutus and other conspirators now corner to Caesar's house and join Decius in persuading Caesar to go to the Senate. Antony, though a bit late, joins them. Caesar thanks them and invites them to share some wine with them. Caesar bids Trebonius and Metellus to keep near his side in the Senate house. Let us see the critical comments of this scene 2, Act 2. In this scene, Calpurnia's characters is revealed. Contrasted with Portia, she appears to be servile and coaxing. She is very meek and dutiful wife. When she is unable to stop him, she remains calm and quiet. Caesar is afraid of the fact that he may be ridiculed by the senators if he stays at home. The attitude of Brutus and Caesar towards their wife can be contrasted. Though boastful and proud, Caesar is inconstant and fickle. Thus the faults of his character are driving him to his doom. Let us pass on to this is the critical comments of scene 2, Act 2. Let us pass on to the scene 3. This short scene, it's a very short scene. This short scene is laid in the street of Rome. It is the ideas of March. Artemidorus, a doctor of rhetoric, reads a paper which warns Caesar of the danger from the conspirators. He is a well-wisher of Caesar and he intends to hand over the letter to Caesar as he passes him in the street. If he reads the paper, he will outwill his enemies, and if he does not, it indicates that the fates with the traitors do contrive. It's a very small, short scene that is taken place in this scene. We can see the critical comments of this scene. This short scene is filled with suspense and it grips the attention of the audience too. It also fills up the interval between Caesar leaving his home and his arrival at the Senate house. This is the critical comment to scene 3, Act 2. Let us pass on to scene 4, Act 2, scene 4. The scene is laid in another street. Portia, to whom Brutus has imparted the secret of the conspiracy, is much agitated and cannot rest peacefully in the house after his departure. She is worried about the safety of her husband and is distracted as if she were mad. She directs Lucius to run to the Senate house on the pretext of seeing how his master is looking and is to observe the events of the Senate. The Senate house. All on a sudden she screams out loudly, for it seems that she has heard a great noise from the Capitol, but Lucius assures her that he hears nothing. a soothsayer joins them, and he has a petition that shall beseech him to befriend himself. He moves to a convenient place where he may speak to great Caesar as he comes along without getting crushed by the dictator's throne of followers. Alarmed by these words, she loses herself control and whispers, "O Brutus, the heavens speed thee in thine enterprise." As she goes inside her house, she reflects how weak a thine the heart of woman is. This is taken place in scene 4, Act 2. So these are the things taken place in Act 1 and Act 2. Let us complete it in this video, and in our next video I am going to give the critical comments and the scene wise summary in my next video, the Act 3, 4 and 5. Thank you.